More at paulharrell.com.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Welcome, State Representative Josh Miller. He is from District 66, and he knows a little bit of something about big government Republicans versus platform Republicans, don't you, Josh?
Hey, Paul, thanks for taking my call. Long-time listener, first-time caller. If you don't mind, could you tell me what you think the Razorbacks' chances are this weekend?
Oh, my goodness. Against the Crimson
Tide.
Tide.
Wait. My bad. Wrong radio show, dude. I'm sorry.
Okay. I got you. Long-time listener, first. Maybe that phrase is popular on sports radio. I would say probably more so than talk radio, than traditional political radio, for sure.
I've always wanted to say it, Paul, and I thought this is my one chance.
This is your one chance. Hey, Josh, seriously though, what are the Razorback chances down in Tuscaloosa on Saturday?
Well, seriously, I think they are. The Razorbacks have a real opportunity here to bend the scoring curve, and maybe experience some slow growth in the Crimson Tide scoring. And I would say that the Razorbacks have about as good a chance of winning this ball game in Tuscaloosa on Saturday as the big government Republicans do of actually limiting government down in Little Rock.
Wow. So not at all. So you're giving them no chance at all. Oh, my goodness. That's a great analogy.
To go, if you wanted to go Dumb and Dumber, I guess you could say there's like a 1 in 500 million chance, and
so you're saying there's a chance.
That's right.
So when you say the Hogs could try to bend the score curve, is that like when a big government Republican says we're bending the cost curve?
Exactly, and I would challenge any business person in the state of Arkansas that could be listening to us right now, and I hope you don't mind me doing this, Paul, but if anybody who is actually in business could call in and give a clear definition of exactly what it means to bend the cost curve, I would appreciate it.
But you hear that a lot. You hear that a lot down there. What does it really mean? What's the carefully crafted language behind bending the cost curve? Is it just like an excuse to allow a government program to continue to exist and waste taxpayer money?
Paul, I've been working on defining a lot of these political speak terms for my constituents and others who care to listen. And the definition that after careful research, exhaustive research, the definition that I have found for bending the cost curve is this. It means that we're spending record amounts of your money, but we don't want to come out and tell you that.
Wow. I think there was some of that in a Arkansas Democrat Gazette piece, I think it was last week, where they were talking about how the Medicaid expansion money is up. But then you start reading, the devil's kind of in the details, and they're celebrating because it hasn't increased 5%. It's only increased, like 3.4%, not the 5%. And because the task force says as long as it doesn't increase over 5%, so then they can write the headline, we're below forecast. And then that makes it think that if you just read that alone, you're going to think, oh, okay, well, we're not spending as much money. But in reality, below forecast can still mean you're spending more money than you did last year.
Well, Paul, that brings me to my next term, slow growth. Slow growth. Now, that I've defined that term as well, and that means that not as many people maybe are signing up for free programs, but they're not, in fact, shrinking. Because what I want to hear is somebody come out and tell me we're experiencing slow shrinkage. And I'm not hearing that. I'm hearing slow growth.
Yeah.
And, while
the maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, how are you? Welcome to the program on this Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Thank you so much for listening. I hope everybody's excited. I know a lot of you are off of your normal routines. Even those of you listening, you may be listening to the program like normal, but I know things are going on. I've been to the grocery store today on two separate occasions. It's a madhouse. It's an absolute madhouse. Hey, feel free. You can sound off on the program right now. We're live streaming over on Facebook. You can do that. It's facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. Or we're over on YouTube or at paulharrell.com. And you can always text us. The number is 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. We do have a good show for you. Not only do we want to get to President George Washington and President Abraham Lincoln and what they had to say about Thanksgiving, we are also going to be interviewing a Fort Smith attorney, Whit Hyman, and his client, Drew Tanner. You'll remember Drew. Drew, we've talked about him before. He is a guy who was open carrying in a Walmart and was arrested by state policemen off duty, or harassed off duty, then arrested later. Anyway, there's a lawsuit now that's happening against this particular police officer. We got First Amendment rights and Fourth Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights. We're going to talk about that at the bottom of this hour in our Patriots of Act 746 segment. So you don't want to miss that. It's going to be a great interview. But here's where I want to start today on this Thanksgiving, or day before Thanksgiving. Folks, there are people in our state who are terrified of free speech. Do you know that? There are people in our state who are trying to control ideas. They're trying to control people. And they're trying to control this state. And the money that is spent, and spent on what? That's what this all comes down to. So you can have a Republican Party that supposedly stands for freedom of thought, conscience, ideas, more importantly, a Republican Party that's all about our Republican form of government and elections, letting the people decide, the consent of the governed. You see, most of the time it's the left we can point to that tries to downplay the consent of the governed. But at least according to what is talked about in conservative circles and
what is campaigned on. We're not supposed to be afraid of debate. We're not supposed to be afraid of ideas. We're not supposed to be afraid of candidates or, in this case, potential candidates. But we have seen this time and time again over the last 2-3 months. The Republican Party of Arkansas, the establishment, are very, very worried about Jan Morgan. Now, honestly, what you can really take from that is they're actually less worried about Jan Morgan and they're more worried about Asa Hutchinson and his record that he has to run on, potentially in a primary. That's what they're really worried about. They're not really worried that, they're worried about a challenger, but they're actually worried about the fact that they have to defend a progressive liberal record. And there's people out there that poke holes in their conservative messaging. And here, anyway, so let me get you to the news. This is what happened, okay? Let's start by going to this. Let's start by going over here, Facebook post here. And it is, this is incredible to me. Free speech requires us to post. This is from Conduit for Action on their Facebook page. Free speech requires us to post this. The Washington County Republican Committee had Republican Jan Morgan as the guest speaker at last night's committee meeting. Okay? Miss Morgan is a Fox News contributor, Second Amendment advocate, and a spokesperson for Citizens for Trump. She has formed an exploratory committee to consider running for governor as a Republican. A picture of Jan Morgan was posted on the county committee's Facebook page, Washington County, thanking her for coming. The committee routinely posts pictures of guest speakers on their page, just like many other county committees around the state. According to our sources, Conduit for Action writes, the Central Committee, a.k.a. the RPA, demanded that the picture and post regarding Jan Morgan be removed. The post has since been removed. Below is the speech from last night's meeting from someone in the audience. We will let the people decide what they want to hear and read. Knowledge is power, and people should not be silenced. Source of that concept, the First Amendment. So what we have here is another attempt by the Republicans to silence Jan Morgan. We already had Governor's henchman, Doug Smith, from the governor's office, try to stop her from speaking in Mississippi County. She was uninvited in Craighead County. She almost, there was pressure applied in Baxter County where she spoke. She got disinvited from the Sebastian County Republican Women's Group because they were told to let her go. And so now we have something as simple as trying to control. They are so worried about Asa Hutchinson's big government liberal record that they're now trying and successfully controlling what goes out on county committee social media sites, all the way from the Central Committee in Little Rock. Unbelievable. How scared are they, folks? They're very scared. Now, to talk a little bit about Washington County and their practices, just look on their Facebook page. This was apparently okay. They publicized Jan Morgan was going to be speaking there. Look at this. Back on, let's see, when was this published? I don't know when it was published, but it was just an event thing saying, hey, on the 21st, she's going to be here. Right? Look at this. Back on October 17th, we have this post. The Washington County Republican Committee thanks Conduit for Action for presenting at our meeting tonight. They shared their mission of pursuing limited government and gave firsthand insight into this year's legislative session in Little Rock. For more information, visit conduitforaction.org. So they were thanking Conduit for Action for coming. Here is where they thanked Brian King. We would like to thank Senator Brian King for presenting at our September Washington County Republican meeting. King updated us on the fiscal state of Arkansas. It was a great presentation. Very simple, just thanking Brian King for coming. Okay? That's not a big deal. That's not a thing. So where's the post? Where actually is the post that they took down? What was said that was taken down? Well, here it is. There it is, right there for you. That's the offensive post. There's two photos of Jan Morgan, and this post has since been deleted. Here it is. She's a crowd favorite and a friend of liberty. Thanks for speaking to our group, and good luck with your future endeavors, Mrs. Jan Morgan. pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But for some reason, according to sources, listen to this, the post was ordered to be taken down. Conduit for Action writing this. Again, let's see here. The committee routinely posts, according to our sources, the Central Committee demanded that the picture and post regarding Jan Morgan be removed. Now, hey, where does that come from? Where's that concept? The Central Committee? For those of you that don't know, this is a big dig. This is a huge dig at Governor Asa Hutchinson and the Republican Party, but I think it's an appropriate one at this point because I, for one, am sick and tired of this. I've had it, okay? I've had it with these people not demanding Jake Files resign. By the way, he's back in the news because a $2.1 million judgment's been filed against him, been awarded to a bank. I've had it with these guys. These guys are scared of ideas. They're scared of you. They're scared of their own platform, or what was left of it. And it's an embarrassment to anybody. And I wonder how middle-of-the-road Republicans feel about this. Because if they exert this type of control over what they would describe as big disagreements, it's only a matter of time before they exert this kind of control over minor disagreements. That's how totalitarians work, because they demand agreement in totality. Think about that. Now look at this. Central Committee. This is what we need to start calling the Republican Party of Arkansas's establishment wing, because this is what they are. It's a Wikipedia page. The Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. The Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Let's see here. It was the highest body of the Communist Party in the Soviet Union between party congresses. According to party rules, the Central Committee directed all party and government activities between each party congress. Members of the committee were elected to the party congresses. During Vladimir Lenin's leadership of the Communist Party, the Central Committee functioned as the highest party authority between congresses. However, at the 8th Party Congress held in 1919, the Political Bureau was established to respond to questions needing immediate responses. I think of that as like a task force. Some delegates objected to the establishment of the Politburo, as it was called, and in response, the Politburo became responsible to the Central Committee, and the Central Committee members could participate in the Politburo. Anyway, so yeah, you get it. You get it. You know, just the very nature of if you actually look up the root word Soviet, the very nature of forming committees or task forces that already have a predetermined outcome is Soviet in nature. You should look it up because I've done it many times. The very idea. So it's fine. Representative government, it's great. Not saying that's Soviet at all. I'm saying that when you form these committees and you give them extra power outside of, not the standing committees, but these task forces, you give them extra power outside of the legislature, and especially when they have predetermined results like we've seen too often. It's actually very, it's just a formality, it's just theater, and that's exactly the root of the Central Committee, was exactly the root. The appearance of diversity of thought when there really was none. And that's what we're seeing right now out of the Republican Party establishment. We're seeing that right now because here they are, and they're taking down Facebook posts. They're demanding that county committees take down Facebook posts. I mean, folks, this is gonna continue. It's gonna get worse and worse and worse and worse. And you know what? The liberal media, they're never going to cover stuff like this because the last thing they want to do is alert more conservatives that this kind of heavy-handed, totalitarian, demanding a pledge of fealty, worshiping the R at the end of these guys' names. The last thing they want is more conservatives to find that out. So anyway, that's the news. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I mean, good grief, right? Isn't that frustrating? It is so frustrating. The Central Committee of the Republican Party of Arkansas. The Central Committee of Arkansas. Let's just start calling them that. They're now taking down Facebook posts or demanding that posts be removed because they're afraid of Jan Morgan. But I think we've hit the nail on the head here, though. I think we really have. You know, what they're really afraid of is having to defend Asa. They're more afraid of defending Asa Hutchinson's record than they are of Jan Morgan. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're afraid of Jan Morgan and what she stands for and her audience and the appeal that she has and everything else. I mean, Jan Morgan's great. But I'm saying if you really want to know what they're afraid of, it's them losing their own power. Think about this. Think of the uphill battle hill. Every one of these guys that's connected to Asa is getting a paycheck of some kind. These people that work in Asa Hutchinson's office, if he loses, they're out of a job. This is for their own monetary security that they go and they try to silence voices that are going to disagree with their boss because they have monetary incentive to stay right where they're at. And by the way, and that means people in the office, who knows what they'll do? Who knows what they'll do? I wouldn't put anything past them at all. I mean, our Facebook Live videos, our Facebook Live videos the last 2 days have been taken down. Sometimes that happens and we get an explanation, but the explanation I was given this time doesn't make any sense, considering, I mean, anyway, all I'm saying is, it would not surprise me at all if there are people who are anti-limited government in Arkansas who are pro-status quo that are just, when this program is live and our numbers are up the way they have been, they just constantly report whatever I'm saying is offensive. You know what I'm saying? And that easily could be happening right now. Anyway, we're going to take a break. It's Thanksgiving, or the day before Thanksgiving. I want to get to the proclamation of George Washington, his reliance on divine providence. It's fantastic. Folks, don't go anywhere. Back in a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas. This is ASA News, The Parrot. With breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock, I'm Bob Maloney. There are reports circling around from politicians who are in the know, and the same phrase keeps being used. That phrase is new revenue generation. Let's go to our reporter on the ground from the Capitol, Haley Hogwash. Haley?
Thanks, Bob. Yes, it seems the more politicians I talk to, the more I hear the phrase new revenue generation. We're trying to figure out exactly what that means, but you can rest assured it will be good for the people of Arkansas.
Haley, it certainly sounds like something good. I like how the phrase uses the word generation. That makes me think this has got to be doing something positive for our children in the future. Haley?
Yes, Bob, some new developments. I've just been speaking to some people who are here and are not politicians, and they tell me the phrase new revenue generation is actually code for a new tax.
Oh, my. Well, if this is true, Haley, that would add to a growing list of new taxes that have barely made any headlines at all, so it's best not to discuss them here on ASA News, The Parrot.
Yes, Bob, I know it's sure to make government officials angry that their phrasing of the new revenue generation has been changed by the people and called a tax increase.
I would expect an announcement from Mother Government soon to set the record straight. What is the new tax? Revenue generation, Haley?
Well, this new tax, a new revenue generation would add to a growing list. First, there was a revenue generation on movies, books, and songs that people download using the internet. And next, there was the tax increase. I'm sorry, Bob, the new revenue generation on all purchases made using the internet. And now I'm told this new revenue generation is a tax on the people's patience.
I realize the people don't like it, Haley, but specifically, what is the new tax? I mean, revenue generation.
No, Bob, I'm telling you, according to the activists here at the Capitol who have gathered and are listening to some radio broadcast, the revenue generation is literally taxing the patience of the people of Arkansas. I'm told the less patience you have with the government
better not tax our patients.
The more they will tax your patience and the more money you will owe at a later date. I'm also told the collection method on taxing your patients will be decided in a newly formed multicolored ribbon task force.
How taxing.
PHP Parody.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. We cannot do the program without you listening, and so we do appreciate it. Okay, so here we go. This is one of my favorite things to do on Thanksgiving. On October the 3rd, in the year 1789, October the 3rd in the year 1789. Actually, we're going to get that out of there because you can't see us. All right. George Washington, the President of the United States of America. Whereas it is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey His will, to be grateful for His benefits, and humbly to implore His protection and favor. And whereas both houses of Congress have by their joint committee requested me to recommend to the people of the United States a day of public thanksgiving and prayer to be observed by acknowledging with grateful hearts the many signal favors of Almighty God, especially by affording them an opportunity peaceably to establish a form of government for their safety and happiness. Now, therefore, I do recommend and assign Thursday, the 26th day of November, to be devoted by the people of these states to the service of that great and glorious being who is the beneficent author of all the good that was, that is, or that will be. That we may then all unite in rendering unto Him our sincere and humble thanks for His kind care and protection of the people of this country previous to their becoming a nation, for the signal and manifold mercies and the favorable interpositions of His providence which we experienced in the course and conclusion of the late war, for the great degree of tranquility, union, and plenty which we have since enjoyed, for the peaceable and rational manner in which we have been enabled to establish constitutions of government for our safety and happiness, and particularly the national one, now lately instituted for the civil and religious liberty with which we are blessed, and the means we have of acquiring and diffusing useful knowledge, and in general for all the great and various favors which He hath been pleased to confer upon us. And also that we may then unite in most humbly offering our prayers and supplications to the great Lord, the ruler of nations, and beseech Him to pardon our national and other transgressions, to enable us all, whether in public or private stations, to perform our several and relative duties properly and punctually, to render our national government a blessing to all the people by constantly being a government of wise, just, and constitutional laws, discreetly and faithfully executed and obeyed, to protect and guide all sovereigns and nations, especially such as have shown kindness unto us, and to bless them with good government, peace, and concord, to promote the knowledge and practice of true religion and virtue, and the increase of science among them and us, and generally to grant unto all mankind such a degree of temporal prosperity as He alone knows to be best, given under my hand at the city of New York, the 3rd day of October in the year of our Lord, 1789. So you've cut back on everything from lattes to lunches. But if you're
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com.
He'll show you how something as simple as combining car and home policies could save you hundreds of dollars a year. Because being there to help keep more of your money in your pocket is why State Farm agent Bob Gist is here. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Discounts may vary state to state.
You believe the show has value. You want to help us keep the show on the air. You want to help us grow the show. You want to help us make videos like this one even better. Then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today. Partner with us and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
I can celebrate the fact that we're not still in a state of rapid growth like we have been the last 2 or 3 years, but we're still growing. And I don't know of a Republican elected in the state of Arkansas to the legislature or any other office that ran on the ticket of continuing to grow government and reward folks for having no initiative to better their own situation.
Yeah.
So,
hey,
that's my take on that.
Josh, I love how organic our interviews go, but one of the reasons I wanted to have you on specifically was to talk about, I don't know if you've heard, but, there is another task force, not on Obamacare, but this time to try to, reform the tax code. And, at the very beginning of the first meeting for this particular tax farce, the Speaker of the House, Jeremy Gillum, said that we need to debunk the news reports and that this task force is not necessarily about recommending future tax cuts to the General Assembly. And I was like, wow, okay, well, so what is it for? It's just going to be cost shifting, and then they're going to call it a tax cut. And people say, no, we still have high hopes for it. Well, now, last week, we find out that Jim Hendren and the tax farce hired a consultant. And the guy to head up this consultant group, his name is Randy Bauer, and he is a lifelong Democrat who tweets like a liberal and who has liberal ideas. And I didn't know if you had a response to that.
Well, I would say I had been made aware of that earlier today. A very smart guy had called and told me about it, and I got to looking into it and discovered that it's true. Here's my response is this, and it's sad that this is my first response, but it's like, why should this come as a surprise?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. Hey, send me a text message, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Coming up at the top of the next hour, we're going to spend a little time reading some Thanksgiving Day proclamations from Abraham Lincoln, 2 of them, I think, from 1863 and 1864. And then we're going to get to our Conduit for Action weekly quiz, which is up right now at conduitforaction.org. So you certainly don't want to miss that. All right, folks. Welcome to the program. We have on the line. We got 2 guests with us. We've got Mr. Drew Tanner with us, along with his attorney, Mr. Whit Hyman. And I appreciate you guys coming on the program. Thanks so much for talking with us today.
Thanks for being here.
All right, so I want to start with you, Drew. I've covered this story before, but you're from Searcy, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
All right, so you're from Searcy. A couple of years ago, you're walking into Walmart. You're open carrying legally under Act 746, and you get harassed by an off-duty police officer. That's what I can make of this. Walk us through what happened.
Okay, well, like I said, I was shopping in Walmart. It was probably 11 o'clock at night. It was the Saturday after Black Friday, so it's coming up on, an anniversary of it. But I was open carrying, and a guy wearing blue jeans and a T-shirt comes up to me, asks me if I'm a law enforcement officer. Second I say no, he grabs him by the arm and says, "State Police, identify yourself." And, of course, I, question who he is because he says he's State Police, doesn't have a badge, doesn't have a uniform on. So I asked to see his badge. Does not show me any badge. And I break free and call 911 on him. Talk to 911 for a minute. They tell me to stay in the building because I'm just attempting to leave because I think this crazy guy's just, trying to attack me and following me.
Yeah, as far as you know, also impersonating a police officer if he won't show you his badge.
Right. And as soon as the dispatch tells me to stay in the store, he comes up, lifts up his shirt, and finally shows his badge and his gun. Of course, at that point, I'm thinking the badge is fake and all this identification that he's throwing out on the table is fake, too, because he's just not acting like I would assume a legitimate police officer would act like. But the store manager comes up and says that I'm not allowed to open carry in the store, which contradicts what corporate office had said. But, of course, I comply with the store manager. I said, yeah, you don't want me in the store. I have no problem being in there. At that point, the man who allegedly is the state trooper escorts me out of the store, cusses me out, and we meet the Searcy police who are outside responding to my 911 call. The Searcy police asked me for my identification. I have no problem giving it to them. They let me go without an issue.
Yeah, because they know what the law says, presumably.
Presumably, I asked for all of their identifications, and the two Searcy police officers wrote down their names on a card. The guy who was pretending to be the state trooper never identified himself to me once. The only thing he said was state police. The Searcy police then said that it was going to be on the police report. So a few days later, I got the police report. I filed a complaint against the trooper once I found out his name. The following Monday, I think it was. And after that complaint, I also contacted Walmart corporate office to clarify what their position was as far as carrying in the store. Mm-hmm. I did confirm that open carry was allowed in the store, provided that it was legal in the state, mm-hmm. which it was. And I asked them if they could contact their store manager in Searcy to let them know this policy. And they responded with, just the next time you're carrying in the store and something happens like this, just show the manager this email. Well, I didn't want to be confrontational about it, so I went back into the store not carrying a weapon at all, not even concealed, and asked to talk to the store manager. And at that time, the same state trooper from earlier, Trooper Ziegenhorn, approaches me and says, "Mr. Tanner, are you carrying today?" I tell him I don't have to answer any questions. He asked me 3 or 4 times.
So let me stop you here, Drew. So how many days after? I mean, was this guy following you?
This happened the following Wednesday, I believe it was. It was a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It was December the 3rd. It was several days later, and he arrives at the store. It was 30 seconds from when I do. We still don't have an explanation on that one.
Yeah.
As far as
y'all have video of all this too. Happened. You've got Walmart security cams of all of this stuff.
Yeah, and if I may interject, the guy's based out of Forest City. So what is he doing in Searcy? It's not even the right troop that's supposed to patrol that area.
Yeah, that is strange. We're also talking with attorney Whit Hyman here. So Whit, yeah, when did y'all find that out? When did you find out that he's not even based out of Searcy?
I found that out as soon as I found out his name, which was that Monday.
Okay. So you researched. Okay, so Okay, so then he arrests you, right there. You're not even carrying at that point, right?
Well, he doesn't arrest me. He doesn't put me under arrest, but he does put me in handcuffs and detain me for what feels like a long time. It was after he asked me for if I was carrying or not, and I wouldn't answer his questions. I finally did answer his question and tell him no, that I was not carrying. And then he demands to see my identification. Well, he already knows who I am, so there's no purpose to see my identification other than just harass me. And I told him that. I said, you don't need to see my identification. I haven't committed any crime. I'm just standing here in line waiting to talk to a manager. You're harassing me. I'm calling 911 again. And as soon as I said I was calling 911 again, he grabs me, puts me in handcuffs, and takes me outside.
And he was in uniform at this point, right? He wasn't in uniform in the first confrontation. This time he comes back to settle a score in uniform. I mean, that's my characterization of it.
Well, what's crazy is when he came up to Drew that second time, I believe his exact words were, "Mr. Tanner, are you carrying today?" So he's asking for him to ID himself when he already knows his identification. And we know now, based on court documents, that he'd already filed a warrant for Drew's arrest before this thing even happened, or it was the same day. I'm assuming it was before this little interaction happened. But, you know, he knows who he is.
Yeah.
And I think this was the same day he'd filed to have Drew's concealed carry license revocation, but I'd have to double check that. Drew concealed carry license revoked because he was open carrying. I mean, it's just clearly he knows who he is. They know each other. They had an interaction the other day. So in Arkansas law, you have to ID yourself, but you don't have to give your state-issued identification if you're not driving, under these circumstances anyway.
It's very strange, a very strange story. And, I know it's I've seen the video of all of this, and it's very, like I said, it just kind of feels like he came back to settle a score. We're talking with Drew Tanner of Searcy, who was put in handcuffs and, from what appears to be, harassed by a state trooper that maybe just disagrees with what Act 746 entails. Also joined by his attorney, Whit Hyman. And I want to remind everybody this particular segment is brought to you by the great patriots of Act 746. They're on a mission to educate the people of Arkansas about constitutional carry, Arkansas Act 746, and your Second Amendment rights. So you can check them out. It's the Patriots of Act 746 on the Facebook page, 11.5, I think 11,000 strong right now. It's a great group. So, Drew, can you kind of wrap up what exactly happened to you? You start with the concealed carry license. It gets revoked for a time. How did you do that?
Yes. During the second incident that we were just talking about, he did confiscate my license. I didn't get notification in the mail until several weeks later that it had been officially revoked. We did had an administrative hearing in front of the state police to challenge that, and they would not return it, and we appealed it to circuit court and lost in circuit court. We pulled Judge Wendell Griffin.
Yeah, that's not going to be good. I'm surprised he found time to do it, and he wasn't protesting the death penalty. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. We after the loss in circuit court, I decided not to press it any further, just because it was way too much money to spend to get a $200 license that I don't even need in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's move on to this. We have a Facebook post here. Whit, and this is what got me to contact you and ask you guys if you wanted to come on and talk about this. A lawsuit, raising money to file a lawsuit against the Arkansas State Police, specifically also Trooper Ziegenhorn here. And so you write, first of all, just tell me the basis of the lawsuit. Whit Hyman, attorney from Fort Smith, what do you think legally was done to Drew that is wrong?
Okay, so actually Drew has quite a few different what they call reasons to sue or causes of action that we're going to pursue. Obviously I'm going to pursue a Second Amendment violation because I believe he was singled out merely for open carrying a firearm I'm also going to, say, hey, there was a Fourth Amendment violation to to his constitutional rights. And in the United States, you can sue individuals who violate your civil rights. You can say that is its own lawsuit. Now, they have to be acting under the color of law, but you can sue them. So, we're also going to be suing over his First Amendment rights for a variety of things. For example, I believe this is Trooper Ziegenhorn's actions were in part due to Drew's complaints that he lodged against him. And that is a retaliation against Drew's use of this complaint process, using his First Amendment right to complain to the government about the government. It doesn't get any more fundamental than that. On top of that, Drew has some First Amendment issues when he was complaining about this incident on the official Arkansas State Police Facebook page. They deleted his comments, and then they ended up blocking him from participating. And we believe that is a First Amendment violation, and we're going to sue a variety of people we believe are involved in the administration of the Facebook page for that incident and try to get a permanent injunction against the Arkansas State Police to not block Drew for saying the things he wants to say, and for anyone else who wants to express an opinion. So, we're going after this officer for malicious prosecution and abuse of process and things like that. The meat of it is, the constitutional rights violation under the Arkansas Constitution as well as the federal one. And at the very least, I believe the second confrontation is the most egregious, because even if he believes and is fundamentally wrong about what Act 746 did, that second confrontation he has with the officer, Drew finally tells him he's not carrying. And even if he is carrying, Drew had a concealed carry license at that point. It hadn't been revoked. So what authority did the officer have to handcuff him and search him and go through his stuff? It's kind of scary.
Yeah. Yeah, so what potentially happens? I mean, let's say that a judge or let's say you guys are right on all counts. I mean, what potentially happens to the trooper here that acted illegally? I mean, subjected Drew, your client, to having his rights violated. What could happen here?
Well, Drew spent a lot of money on this case when he was charged with the crime of obstructing governmental operations by, based on an affidavit filed by Trooper Ziegenhorn. And so we would be able to recover the money that Drew spent on his attorney, the money that he spent bonding at a jail, maybe get money for the 5 hours he spent in jail, maybe get some money for the appeals fees that it cost him to appeal this stuff. He would get attorney's fees in this lawsuit paid for. He'd get his costs paid for in this lawsuit. If he's successful, he would, depending on what we can prove, because that's one of the causes of action is we've tried to ask for this guy's emails. We've tried to ask for the results of Drew's, complaints, and they've blocked us at every turn. We've submitted the FOIA request, and we believe those were, I think, 6 of them so far have been denied, and there's a 7th one pending that they're, most likely going to deny, just to figure out, was this guy punished or not? And he wasn't, obviously. But that's another part of the lawsuit is that they are violating his rights under the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. So, yeah, he would be able to recover on that. Potentially, depending on what we can prove, you might be able to get what's called punitive damages. And if you can get punitive damages, then he might be able to get a little bit more money than normal.
Yeah.
But that's really about it. But our main goal, regardless of the amount of money that's nice, because this is it's hard for me. I'm filing this in Little Rock. It's 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
You know, I get paid a lot of money to do other stuff. This civil rights stuff, you know, so far I've won 2 cases and I haven't been paid a dime. You know, so it's you know, this civil rights stuff doesn't really pay a lot of money.
Real quick, Whit, what kind of other cases? What you've won 2 civil rights cases? What did they entail? What freedoms are we talking about?
Okay, well, one of my guys, he's not a very relatable person. Most of your listeners probably won't like him. I don't like what he did. Personally, don't really care for him that much, but that's not what rights are about. One of my guys, he yelled "F you" at a state trooper while driving away from him, and the state trooper pulled him over and arrested him for disorderly conduct. My guy wasn't arrested before that. He just saw this state trooper giving somebody a speeding ticket. You know, and he didn't, for some reason, didn't like that. He's just some young punk. But, you know, a judge ruled that was his First Amendment right to be able to express that, you know, his dislike of the police.
Yeah.
However unfounded.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I don't, you know, I'm like the founding fathers. You know, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say.
Exactly.
And it was unfortunate in that case because he was arrested, thrown in jail for 8 hours in a jail cell filled with meth heads, and the toilet was overflowing with all sorts of stuff that I'm not sure I can talk about on the air. I don't know. I hope I didn't say the word that he said, and you guys were able to bleep that. Hopefully I censored myself. I can't remember now. But, you know, and then the other one I did before that was with another attorney when we sued the state of Arkansas over their election laws and how they were treating third parties differently than they were the Republicans and the Democrats. We got a judge to say, you know what, that is different, and it's so different that it's unconstitutional, and I'm going to award you attorney's fees and also, you know, order the state of Arkansas to change the law. And so then the state of Arkansas appealed, and we're trying to, and that was over a year ago. And so it's been in limbo. We just had oral arguments on it. Now the judges that you appeal this stuff to are saying that it's moot, and they may rule that we don't get the attorney's fees that we spent on this or the hundreds of dollars that we spent deposing people. You know, we just wanted people to be treated fairly.
Yeah.
But,
I mean,
anyway.
well, you know, what could be accomplished here is I feel like is a lot. I mean, you know, whether you're talking about, you know, the stuff that could make Drew whole, Drew. I mean, with everything that you went through, but I also think it could help. Honestly, Act 746 get a little bit more press in terms of exposure about what the law actually says and how wrong this officer was. And I also know on this Facebook post here I've got up on the page that you guys are actually trying to raise money to start the process. A filing fee in federal court's $400. 2 depositions you have to take, that's $400 a piece. And so if any of you guys out there are listening to this, you've heard Drew's story, you hear his attorney here, Whit Hyman, extremely competent. If you guys want to help out towards that and, you know, kind of pursue the justice here that I think needs to be done, feel free. You can call Whit. Is this your number here, Whit?
Yes, 901. It's my cell phone number.
Okay, so 901-413-2625. That's 901-413-2625. And you've also shared this link over at Patriots of Act 746, which means, you know, you could check it out there. Drew, I'll give you the last word, sir. Just generally, just generally, what are your thoughts on all this? I mean, I know you want it to work out good.
Yeah, I always say, you know, I do want it to work out well. Like he was saying earlier, you know, monetary gain would be nice from it, but the goal is to, you know, hold the government accountable for their wrongdoing.
Wow.
Well, Paul, if you would let me finish it up, even if we lose this case, Paul, even if they say the law was so unclear, the officer shouldn't have reasonably been expected to know what it was, we might get a federal judge to interpret the law and say, and so from that point going forward, you would be able to potentially sue police officers who harassed people for open carrying.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could point to this case, hey, what about Tanner v. Ziegenhorn?
Yeah.
You can't do that. It's been established that what I'm doing is right. That case put you on notice.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is my underlying driving force behind it. I want Drew to be, him to be the sacrificial lamb, so to speak.
Holding the government accountable, I think you guys are really approaching this from the right way. I hope everybody can give you as much support as they can to try to get the ball rolling. Drew Tanner, appreciate it, sir. Attorney Whit Hyman, I'd love to do it again soon, okay?
All right. Thanks,
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Folks, we got to take a break. We're going to be back here in just a minute. Don't go anywhere.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Who's next to Zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The Zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the Zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages because right now my feelings are so hurt and I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Oh, okay, fine, whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to talk radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9755 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up the first hour. We have one more hour coming your way next. Don't miss it. So we're going to go over some Thanksgiving Day proclamations. I love to do that kind of stuff. And then we got the Conduit for Action quiz, and we've got a new Conduit for Action article about that party platform to go over that has been changed. You don't want to miss it. We got a great second hour, wrapping everything up before we start a Thanksgiving holiday weekend. We'll be back in just a moment.
The poll.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this, and I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
This, we don't have enough people in positions who are actually genuine about wanting to shrink government, that want to actually bring real tax relief on all citizens. I want all of our taxpayers to experience some tax relief, and it's not that hard. You just, you've got to be willing. But I know exactly what you're saying, what they're wanting to do, and we're probably going to come out of this. I'm going to say it right now, go on the record and say it right now, what the recommendation, whether it comes from this highly paid consultant or it comes from the governor's office or wherever it comes from, the recommendation is going to wind up bringing in an increase in taxes and not a decrease. Now, we will decrease the burden on some, but it's like, hey, if you decrease the amount I have to pay in income taxes, but you increase the amount I have to pay in sales tax when I go fill up my vehicle or whatever or any other kind, is it really a cut? No, I'm still paying more money to the government.
So you think that they're going to basically try to protect the government's not going to wind up getting less money out of this deal for sure. You think they're actually going to wind up getting more money, and what? I mean, but it's not going to be a true tax cut. They're not going to quit spending and then give that money back to the people.
Absolutely not. Here's the situation that the state of Arkansas is in. We cannot afford any more tax cuts. With what we're spending right now, we cannot afford another tax cut. I mean, when you're running a $5 billion machine down there, and you want to jump up and down and sing hallelujah and all this stuff, and click your heels in the air and just celebrate the fact that we finished up a fiscal year with $15 million in surplus. Wow. I mean, that's ridiculous. And that was after we had to cut the budget.
Yeah, after he had to cut.
Because we weren't meeting, after we weren't meeting projections and all this kind of stuff. So, the sad reality is there's no way we can afford a real tax cut. We can't afford less revenue until we start cutting some of our expenditures. I mean, if you're spending $100 a week on something, you need to be generating $100 a week.
Well, Josh, why don't they want to cut spending, or why? I guess in their minds, the establishment leadership, it's like it's not even possible to cut spending. Why do you think that is? What are some of the reasons?
I wish I knew. Other than I go back to, of course, with the big elephant in the room. Is always, and until it goes away, which I don't know if it will or not, but it's going to be the Medicaid expansion dollars. And we are, we've since proven that we would have been cheaper it would have been cheaper for us as a state to have just expanded traditional Medicaid services and not been buying private insurance. But yet we're still going to continue to do that. And, you know, once you involve companies who are making hundreds of millions of dollars of profit each year, you know, they like to donate to politicians, and they like to,
yes,
you know, offer jobs and do this other kind of, all this other stuff. And that makes it hard to, you know, to affect change in the legislature, because we have too many people who are afraid of not getting those campaign contributions, I guess, or other stuff. I mean, the list goes on.
I don't want to.
You know,
I got another question here. We're talking with State Representative Josh Miller, District 66. That includes Heber Springs. You calling from Heber? Is that where you're calling from?
Well, actually, I'm calling from the hilltop right above my farm, where I'm about to go deer hunt.
Oh, nice. Okay, all right.
So I'm in southern Stone County right now.
Okay, all right, southern Stone County. All right. So I don't want to, you know. Here's my issue. I just want your honest.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. I know everyone's getting excited. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. We want you to be a part of that. One of the ways you can do that is to text us today, 870-275-9799, or feel free, you can sound off on Facebook. It's always a pleasure to get to talk to you guys on Facebook. I love your comments. I also like to see who's watching, so that's always fun as well. All right, it's Thanksgiving, or the day before Thanksgiving, and last hour I read the Thanksgiving Day Proclamation from President George Washington, and today we get to move to Abraham Lincoln, who wrote two of them. And I don't know if we've gotten to both of these before on the program. I know we've always gotten to one, but of course, you know, we're going to start with the 1863 one. 1863, how's that sound, right? Abraham Lincoln, October 3rd, Thanksgiving Day Proclamation. The year that is drawing, 1863, the year that is drawing towards its close has been filled with the blessings of fruitful fields and healthful skies. So he starts here with a good note, even though we're in the midst of a civil war. To these bounties, which are so constantly enjoyed that we are prone to forget the source from which they come. Others have been added which are so extraordinary a nature that they cannot fail to penetrate and soften even the heart which is habitually insensible to the ever-watchful providence of Almighty God. I'm telling you, man, let me stop here. This is incredible. The absolute reverence that they had for Almighty God. I mean, that last sentence there, talking about we've been so blessed, right? And things have been so amazing this year. We're so fortunate that they can't fail to come across. Like this idea of how blessed we are can't even It will not fail to penetrate the biggest skeptic. And, he says, which is habitually insensible. But what does he throw in? He says, but God sees the habitually insensible. It's just they can't, it's like every other sentence, they have to make sure that they know what the true concept of the one true Almighty God really means, what it really entails, the concept of that kind of perfection, and how we do not measure up. In the midst of a civil war of unequaled magnitude, Abraham Lincoln went on, and severity, which has sometimes seemed to foreign states to invite and to provoke their aggression, peace has been preserved with all nations, order has been maintained, the laws have been respected and obeyed, and harmony has prevailed everywhere, except in the theater of military conflict. While that theater has been greatly contracted by the advancing armies and navies of the Union. Needful diversions of wealth and of strength from the fields of peaceful industry to the national defense have not arrested the plow, the shuttle, or the ship. The axe has enlarged the borders of our settlements and the mines, as well of iron and coal, as of the precious metals, have yielded even more abundantly than heretofore. Population is steadily increased, notwithstanding the waste that has been made in the camp, the siege, and the battlefield, and the country, rejoicing in the consciousness of augmented strength and vigor, is permitted to accept continuance of years with large increase of freedom. No human counsel, listen to this, back to the reliance on divine providence here. Abraham Lincoln wrote, 1863, no human counsel hath devised, nor hath any mortal hand worked out these great things. They are the gracious gifts of the Most High God, who, while dealing with us in anger for our sins, hath nevertheless remembered mercy. It has seemed to me fit and proper that they should be solemnly, reverently, and gratefully acknowledged, as with one heart and one voice, by the whole American people. I do therefore invite my fellow citizens in every part of the United States, and also those who are at sea and those who are sojourning in foreign lands, to set apart and observe the last Thursday of November next as a day of thanksgiving and praise to our beneficent Father who dwelleth in the heavens. And I recommend to them that while offering up the ascriptions justly due to him for such singular deliverances and blessings, they do also with humble penitence for our national perverseness and disobedience. Commend to his tender care all those who have become widows, orphans, mourners, or sufferers in the lamentable civil strife in which we are unavoidably engaged, and fervently implore the interposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation and to restore it as soon as may be consistent with the divine purposes, to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union. In testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed, done at the city of Washington this 3rd day of October, A.D. 1863, and of the independence of the United States, the 88th. Abraham Lincoln. I got to back up here on this one for a second. I'm telling you, again, the reverence here. Okay? Let's start here at fervently. Fervently implore the interposition of the almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation, which they need in the Civil War. Please heal the wounds. Please restore the nation. But do it. Think of the reverence here. Think of the humility. But do it when it's consistent with your divine plan. Do it when it's time to do it. Do it. Again, I know Abraham Lincoln's not a founder. You go back and read George Washington like we did last week, or last hour, rather. It is just some really deep theology. Very, very deep stuff. So that was 1863. Moving on now to 1864. A proclamation. Now I love this one. I mean, I love them all, but I really love this one. It has pleased Almighty God to prolong our national life another year, defending us with His guardian care against unfriendly designs from abroad, and vouchsafing to us, in His mercy, many and signal victories over the enemy, who is of our own household. It has also pleased our Heavenly Father to favor as well our citizens in their homes, as our soldiers in their camps, and our sailors on the rivers and seas with unusual health. He has largely augmented our free population by emancipation and by immigration, while He has opened to us new sources of wealth and has crowned the labor of our working men in every department of industry with abundant rewards. Moreover, He has pleased to animate and inspire our minds and hearts with fortitude, courage, and resolution sufficient for the great trial of civil war into which we have been brought by our adherence as a nation to the cause of freedom and humanity, and to afford to us reasonable hopes of an ultimate and happy deliverance from all our dangers and afflictions. Now, therefore, I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, do hereby appoint and set apart the last Thursday in November next as a day which I desire to be observed by all my fellow citizens, wherever they may be, as a day of thanksgiving and praise to Almighty God, the beneficent Creator and ruler of the universe. And I do further recommend to my fellow citizens, aforesaid, that on that occasion they do reverently humble themselves in the dust, and from thence offer up penitent and fervent prayers and supplications to the great disposer of events for a return of the inestimable blessings of peace, union, and harmony throughout the land, which it has pleased Him to assign as a dwelling place for ourselves and for our posterity throughout all generations, in testimony whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed, done at the city of Washington this 20th day of October, A.D. 1864, and of the independence of the United States, the 89th, Abraham Lincoln. Folks, that is some good stuff there, right? You know what my favorite part is? The great disposer of all events. You see, going from a document like this all the way back to the first in America, the Declaration of Independence, the United States, there is a humility that we don't have already, which, the thing about humility is when you start talking about it, it's shy and it leaves. But there is a perspective I feel like that we lack today. You want to know, I said this back during the eclipse, but you want to know, how many people I saw back when that eclipse happened? And there were people on Facebook, and there are people that you saw that said that they felt weird that day. I felt weird that day. Did you feel weird? How many people felt weird during that eclipse? Anybody? I felt pretty weird. Then I realized why. I felt strange because, even though I know this, we saw it. We are not in control. That eclipse happened, and there was nothing that we could do to stop it, to make it happen faster, to make it last longer. There was absolutely nothing we could do. And that is a humbling thought. It's a humbling thought for people who believe in an almighty God. It's also probably a pretty unnerving thought for people who don't believe in an almighty God. The great disposer of events. He hung the planets, and, knows when they're going to eclipse one another. It's just, anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I'm very thankful. I know a lot of people have things they're going to be thinking about tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week that they're thankful for. I certainly, I think we can all agree, we have things so much better than we deserve. And we take things for granted so much. I know I do. I take things for granted a lot. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I know this is geeking out for me, folks. I'm going to read from Governor William Bradford's journal for the Plymouth Pilgrims because I love it. The first Thanksgiving, it's actually the triumph of capitalism over socialism because they tried socialism and they almost all died. I'll talk more about that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Protecting your business means protecting your data. But is your business really prepared to handle the growing threat of things like cybercriminals and ransomware? At iTex, they're committed to deploying the best security solutions to protect your business and your bottom line. Security threats are constantly evolving. So are security needs. Be proactive now and equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. Call them today for a free consultation at 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com.
This is State Representative Dan Sullivan with a Liberty Moment. Governments do not make ideals, but ideals make governments. This is both historically and logically true. Of course, the government can help to sustain ideals and create institutions through which they can better be observed, but the source of their very nature is in the people. The people have to bear their own responsibilities. There's no method by which that burden can be shifted to the government. It's not the enactment, but the observance of laws that created the character of a nation. President Calvin Coolidge.
Paid for by Sullivan for Arkansas. If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
What you cooking? It smells familiar.
I'm cooking something amazing, new, and different, and you're going to love it, babe.
Really? It seems like we've had this dish before.
Don't believe me? Come and taste it for yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm right. This tastes just like Obamacare.
No, actually, it's the new private option. I call this fantastic new dish Arkansas Works.
That's odd, because it looks and tastes just like Obamacare.
Why do you always have to be so critical? I'm in here cooking, trying to do something nice for the family.
Because I thought we talked about this before. I don't like Obamacare.
You just need to give it another chance.
So you admit it's the same?
No, it's different. It's Arkansas Works.
Let me ask you something. Does it smell like Obamacare?
Yes.
Does it taste like Obamacare?
I suppose so.
Are you using the same ingredients to make it as you used to make Obamacare?
Yes.
Then how is your so-called new dish, Arkansas Works, not Obamacare?
Well, let me explain, honey. You will remember, recently, I had my name legally changed at your request, right?
Yes, I know. You had it changed from Duke to Rover. I dislike the name Duke, and I think Rover sounds so much more personally responsible.
Well, now that I'm called Rover instead of Duke, I believe I can take the same recipe and ingredients and create a dish with the same smell and taste from before.
Okay.
And because of my name change, you will love it.
I'm not buying it. And I just realized the name Duke and Rover are both common names for dogs.
PHP Parody.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks so much for being with us. We do appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments on Facebook. I love it. I say that Jan Morgan has been listening. Very complimentary. I appreciate those compliments, Jan. James, I love this. James is listening in Florida. He writes, I live in Florida but love listening to this program. And he writes that she lives out of state as well but also loves the program. And James also asks if I'm running the program solo. And yes, I am. Joe's on vacation. So it certainly has made me appreciate what he does. Let me tell you, because you push this, you push that. And we got a lot of stuff going on here. I've tried to tell you guys, it's like running the Millennium Falcon here. It's like trying to get off the ground here. We've got analog technology working with the digital technology, working with the stream, working with the terrestrial radio stations across the state of Arkansas. Oh, boy. And, I've got graphics to do here like this right here. Look at this. Now, William Bradford. Who is William Bradford? William Bradford was a governor of Plymouth. And you've got this story here. You'll see a lot of these around Thanksgiving. Now, this one's from fee.org. I'm not really familiar with this. It was posted last year. Thanksgiving was a triumph of capitalism over collectivism. There's another one out there you can find. Thanksgiving is a triumph of capitalism over socialism. But specifically with Thanksgiving, you're talking about something that happened a long time ago, 1620. We're talking about the Pilgrims, and we're talking about a guy. I don't ever remember him in history class, but you're talking about a guy, William Bradford. He was the head of the colony, okay, the governor. And he has a journal, and he talks about how essentially right here, the less industrious members of the colony came late to their work in the fields. They were slow. They were easy in their labors, knowing that they and their families were to receive an equal share of whatever the group produced, and that wasn't a lot of incentive. Right away, it's like, what kind of incentives do we want to promote here? Listen to this right here. This is a quote from his journal. For the young men that were able and fit for labor and service did repine that they should spend their time and strength to work for other men's wives and children without recompense. The strong, or men of parts, had no more division of food, clothes, etc., than he that was weak and not able to do a quarter the other could. This was thought injustice. The aged and graver men to be ranked and equalized in labor, in food, and clothes, etc., with the meaner and younger sort, thought it some indignant and disrespect unto them. As for men's wives to be commanded to do service for other men as dressing their meat, washing their clothes, they deemed it a kind of slavery. Neither could their husbands brook it. I know it's old English, but you get the point. was like, hey, wait a second. And I'll finish it up when we come back. Also, the Conduit for Action quiz. Also, a new article over at conduitforaction.org. Go check it out right now, folks. Got to go to break. Back in just a moment. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Are you tired?
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Welcome those of you watching at paulharrell.com, Facebook Live, or our YouTube page, The Paul Harrell Program. This is the set where we shoot our Wednesday weekly videos for our Patreon subscribers. And if you want to get on board and get extra Paul Harrell Program content because you want to partner with us, you believe the show has value, you want to help us keep the show on the air, you want to help us grow the show, you want to help us make videos like this one even better, then you need to seriously think about subscribing to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's patreon.com/thephp. Get extra content today, partner with us, and help build the Liberty Machine. We're asking you to partner with us for as little as $5 a month. Now, you can go up from there. You can go to $10 a month and get extra features, or $25 a month and become a Conduit Media Insider. But for $5 a month, you can really help us out. You can get extra content. You can see what we talk about on sets like this. And I promise you, you won't be disappointed. Thanks for watching. Back in a moment.
Reaction to this. Among the leadership that are Republicans, that I don't even know if they're claiming to be conservatives anymore, Josh. That's kind of why this is a tough question. But there's never a loss of credibility. And part of that is because we have a mainstream media that leaves a lot of the people in the dark. But when you look at Senator Jim Hendren, for example, who used his past credentials to say, follow me, I'll end Medicaid expansion. Still no one's called and told me that it's ended yet. We still have it. He's on record saying it was going to end it. That wasn't a true statement. And we were going to do real tax reform this last session. The governor said no. Hendren said no. And Hendren said, follow me. I'll create another task force, and we'll get real tax reform. We now find out that that's pretty much not going to happen. He's hired a lifelong Democrat to advise a red state, or a supposed red state, how to proceed with lowering taxes. We're the highest tax state around. It cost almost $8,000 per capita to run our government when it cost $5,000 per capita to run Oklahoma or Texas or, all the states around us on average. And, those are some big, that's a big problem. So why do none of these guys, when they fail to deliver actual limited government results, they never lose their credibility, it seems like? What's your response to that?
My response is twofold. Number one, I think that we do live in a red state. There's enough people that have gotten tired of government operating the way it has been in the past, and they have voted overwhelmingly for a change. So I think the direction that you and I are talking about, the direction that you and I would like to see things go, is wildly popular with the working men and women in the state of Arkansas. I have no doubt about that. Our problem is that you touched on it just a second ago. We don't have enough of the mainstream media that is willing to, if nothing else, just say, hey, aren't you flip-flopping on your last position? They don't do that very often. And number two is this is a problem, and I'm not by any means, hey, listen, I'm a
The Paul Harrell Program.
Yeah, so you see up here, we're going to get to this article here in just a minute. Hiding in plain sight. Conservatives must be vigilant always. That is exactly correct. Exactly correct. All right. So check it out. Before we go to Thanksgiving, let's talk about Thanksgiving. People were upset before the first Thanksgiving because they were about to starve to death. And it's like the pilgrims, they come over here for a religious journey, and they do think that they're going to kind of be, some of them, according to some, writings, you'll say that, they thought they were going to be like a new Jerusalem or something, and they were going to be like a commune in a way, and that didn't work. This didn't work. They almost starved to death because of the lack of incentive to keep more of what you get to work for and things like that. And the economy, and not to mention, they got to grow crops and everything else. But imagine how upset they were. You go from, you're religiously persecuted, but then you get to the point where you can't even feed yourself because, there's no way to, the economy's not producing and things like that. And so they were upset. But if you read from Governor William Bradford, he realized that another season like the one he had that had just passed would mean extinction of the entire community. The elders of the colony decided to try something radically different. Instead, they gave families private property rights. Imagine that, private property rights, the basis of freedom. So they also allowed families to keep their fruits of their own labor. This is a direct quote from that journal, which proves, it proves that capitalism won over collectivism, communism, socialism, whatever you want. The left continues to try to say that it works great on a chalkboard, and they want to ignore all the atrocities and the massive loss of life of the 20th century of these totalitarians and everything else, communists, fascists, whatever. And the bottom line is, this was the beginning of civilization that led to the country that we're in today. And the people in the country today reject this line of thought completely, but when it came down to life or death, it was a pretty easy decision to make. Just so you know, aside from the fact of what the Declaration stands for, that was written in the 18th century, the Constitution and all that other stuff, the philosophy of people that don't like those documents can't stand the fact that this happened. They can't stand the fact that the accounts of what happened during the first Thanksgiving, or what led to the bountiful harvest, was the fact that they'd almost starved because they tried the snowflake way, and they needed to change stuff up. So that literally means it's not the fabric of our country that they are trying to destroy. It's the very method that began to not really conquer the continent, but just try to tame the thing so they could live on it. So when you say people, there are just some fundamental differences. You don't get more fundamental than they're really disagreeing with the presence of the country, is what I'm trying to say. If you really get down to it, the left just disagrees with the fact that this has worked out the way it has, warts and all. But if you were to really take away the war, this would be a wart. This would be considered a wart. When William Bradford wrote this, and so assign to every family a parcel of land according to the proportion of their number for that end. This had very good success, for it made all hands very industrious, so as much more corn was planted than otherwise would have been by any means the governor or any other could use, and saved him a great deal of trouble, and gave far better content. The women now went willingly into the fields, and took their little ones with them to set corn, which before would allege weakness and inability, whom to have compelled would have been thought a great tyranny and oppression. By this time, moving on now, after the new policy was implemented, by this time harvest had come, and instead of famine, now God gave them plenty. And the face of things was changed to the rejoicing of the hearts of many, for which they blessed God, and the effect of their planting was well seen, for all had, one way or other, pretty well to bring the year about. And some of the abler sort and more industrious had to spare and sell to others, so as any general want or famine hath not been amongst them since to this day. It's extremely amazing. Listen to this. The experience that was had in this common course and condition, tried sundry years, and that amongst the godly and sober men may well convince of the vanity and conceit of Plato's and other ancients, meaning these people that thought this type of commune, is they're vain if you think that's going to work. That the taking away of property and bringing into a commonwealth would make them happy and flourishing, as if they were wiser than God. For this community, so far as it was found to breed confusion and discontent and retard much employment that would have been to their benefit and comfort. Let none object, this is man's corruption, and nothing to the curse itself. I answer, seeing all men have this corruption in them, God in his wisdom saw another course for them. Now that is a direct response to, but it's not right to be self-interested. William Bradford here is saying, yeah, maybe so, but that's just part of the world we live in. That's part of the curse that we live under. And as long as we're divvying up power, that same curse, it's better to be free and let people in their voluntary cooperation do what they want, because there are no angels to step in and try to regulate that. There's no man that's going to be able to benevolently be a dictator. There's no such thing. That just doesn't happen, okay? And so better freedom than try to consolidate it all because we're not God. And we don't have, there's no answer man can come up with that by our own doing will perfect us, will perfect man, will perfect this system of, well, why is that person so greedy? Well, why do bad things happen, right? See, that's what you can't get. You know, this whole idea of a curse, right? It's called death. It happens. It's inevitable. There's nothing we can do about it as much as people want to try and stop it. Right now, you know, that's where we are. Anyway, when you put it in that kind of context, and this journal just speaks for itself, this stuff makes me so excited. I love talking about this stuff. I really do. So, anyway, that's it. That's the first Thanksgiving. It's pretty fantastic, if you ask me. All right, so we have another article here. We're gonna wrapping things up. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody out there. It's actually pretty fun. I mean, when you think about it. See, people like to think that what I just told you is a partisan. What I just told you about William Bradford, that's the partisan view of Thanksgiving. No, that's what happened. It's only now that it's partisan because we do have half the country that wants the country to just, I don't know, not exist. So they reject all this. I mean, it's half the country who has an ideology where if we followed it and we were put in similar circumstances, we'd all starve to death. And it's just because of the world that we live in. It would be different. It would be different if the leftists could point us to angels or to some sort of infallible person that once they become a dictator or once they become politically powerful, they somehow become perfect to administer us, to rule us. That would be a different story. We'd have a debate then, right? But that person does not exist in this dimension yet. The phone number, give me a text, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. All right. Let's take the Conduit for Action quiz. What do you guys think? Let's do it. It's up at conduitforaction.org. Go there now. This is a review. Knowledge is power. Arkansas Government 101. This is the review questions number. This is the second time they've had a review, kind of a conglomeration of questions from other week's quizzes. All right, here we go. Let's take it. Joe's not here, so I'm sorry. We don't have our normal pomp and circumstance for Joe. How are justices of the Supreme Court appointed? I'm sorry. How are justices of the Supreme Court selected in the state of Arkansas? Well, they are elected by the people. Next. Which branch of government oversees the rules of evidence and rules of procedure for courts of law? Judicial branch. Oh, hang on a second. Yeah, the judicial branch. I guess I'm not doing this the way I normally do. But your choices were legislative branch, judicial branch, executive branch, or imperial branch. Correct answer is the judicial branch. Number 3. According to the Arkansas.gov website, how many boards does Arkansas state government have? Examples: the Board of Public Accountancy, Auctioneers Licensing Board. I'm going to go with 77. I don't really remember exactly, but I'm going to go with 77. Your choices were 22, 37, 51, or 77. Number 4, which of the following are the constitutional officers for the state of Arkansas? Well, there are 7 of them. They give you that a hint. The answer is Governor, Attorney General, Land Commissioner, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, Treasurer, and Auditor. All right. Do I have to hit OK? Yeah, OK. Question number 5. According to the Tax Foundation, where does Arkansas rank for combined state and local sales tax rates? Are we the 20th highest, the 15th highest, the 10th highest, or the 3rd highest? We are the 3rd highest, in my opinion. I may be wrong on these. Question 6. According to the Arkansas Center for Research and Economics, what was the pass rate of local sales tax increase special elections between 1981 and 2016 versus the pass rate when these same type of elections were held at the general election? I am going to say that it's 77% versus 44%, meaning if you have it during a special election, you get a 77% chance of your tax passing, and it's a 44% chance of the tax passing if you have it during a general election. That's a good question. Good follow-up. Question number 7. Who was the lead sponsor of SB 96 of 2015 that claimed to end Obamacare Medicaid expansion but actually kept Obamacare Medicaid expansion under the name Arkansas Works? That would be, was it Joyce Elliott? No. Was it Keith Ingram? No. Was it John Walker? No. It was Republican Senator Jim Hendren. Question number 8, which group of people does Obamacare Medicaid expansion primary benefit through the Arkansas Works government program? Mostly it benefits able-bodied working-age adults who don't work. Question 9, at what rate does the state of Arkansas tax insurance premiums, and where does this rate rank compared to other states? Is it 0.5%, 45th highest, 1%, 30th highest, 2%, 20th highest, or 2.5%, 10th highest? Well, I know the answer to this because this is kind of the stuff that I think about. It's actually 2.5% on insurance premiums and the 10th highest. Now, to remind you, that means that when the Arkansas Insurance Department approved the rate hikes of Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield of 19%, that means that the state of Arkansas actually got more revenue coming in because the rates are higher and every premium has a 2.5% tax that the government levies on it. And, of course, the Blue Cross Blue Shield pays it, right? No, you pay it because they pass it on to you, the consumer. And if you look up the law, that 2.5% tax is for the pleasure or the privilege, I think is the exact quote, the privilege for doing business in the state of Arkansas. All right, question 10, have you subscribed to Conduit for Action's email list to get new surveys and articles automatically sent to your inbox? I have. What town do I live in? I live in Jonesboro. And we're going to click OK. And we're going to click Done. And what's my score? 100%. Yeah, I got them all right. 15 out of 15. That's right. I'll have to remind Joe of that when he's back next week and we do next week's quiz. There, it's the quiz is up at conduitforaction.org. Feel free to take it for yourself. If you just watch me do this online, obviously you know what the answers are. Send your friends this quiz. That's where you guys want to help spread the word. This is information that needs to be known to people all across the state. All right, next up, we have another article. Wow, gosh, that took a lot of time. I guess I talked about Bradford for a little bit. I'm sorry. So we got this other article that you need to read. It's really, really good. It's by Brenda Vassar Taylor. It's up at conduitforaction.org. And the reason you need to read it is because it's a follow-up on how the phrase limited government was removed from the Republican Party of Arkansas platform. And it was missed. She writes, Conduit for Action recently wrote about dramatic changes in the Arkansas Republican platform, which seem to favor establishment Republicans over their more conservative cousins. What had been the 10 principles of the party were deleted, You can read that article there. Okay, limited government and other principles removed from the platform. She writes on, I would not have been aware of the removal of the 10 principles if not for a phone call. The caller claimed Governor Asa Hutchinson had responded to one of Conduit for Action's criticisms by saying Conduit for Action is wrong about limited government being a principle of the Arkansas Republican Party. I knew that couldn't be right. I had read the principles many times, but the governor was right. The words limited government have completely been removed from the platform. Worse, the 10 principles have been completely removed. Soon after our article appeared, we received the following comment from a fellow Republican. So, who or how did our platform get diluted and the principles changed? I don't recall voting on anything that sounded like changing the principles. I'm furious, end quote. Brenda Vassar-Taylor goes on. It was changed at the Arkansas Republican Convention in August 2016. I share the same frustration because I, too, was at the same meeting and didn't realize the principles had been deleted from the platform. I never anticipated that the preamble to the platform would be a battleground for an establishment takeover, but I am learning that you cannot take anything for granted. Legislators and citizens alike are learning the same lesson the hard way. While I'm frustrated at not catching the changes in the principles of the Arkansas Republican Party, this reinforces to me the importance of Conduit for Action and its monitoring of Arkansas legislation. Arkansas needs conservative watchdogs because there's so much that just slides by the public and the press. Here are a few examples of why we must be vigilant. Common Core. Some legislators were surprised that when they voted for the Department of Education's cleanup bill, that bill included a huge change. It allowed the state to impose Common Core education standards. Weaker term limits. Many Arkansans were surprised to learn they voted to weaken term limits when they voted for a 2014 constitutional amendment on ethics that said it was establishing term limits. Obamacare Medicaid expansion. When Governor Hutchinson's nephew, Senator Jim Hendren, told legislators his bill to create a task force on Medicaid would end Obamacare Medicaid expansion, some legislators were surprised to learn that, one, the bill did not shorten by even 1 second the time the program was scheduled to expire in Arkansas, or two, that the first duty of the task force was to recommend how to continue coverage. Conduit for Action cannot spot every issue on its own. That is why you, our readers, need to alert us when you spot progressive big government changes being proposed in Arkansas. We hope you will express your concerns to your elected officials and let them know you stand for conservative principles. And about the Arkansas Republican platform, if you are a Republican, like me, Brenda Vassar-Taylor writes, let's make sure the changes favoring establishment Republicans are not repeated in the 2018 platform. It's a very good article by Brenda Vassar-Taylor here. And a lot of people asked after that article was written, this one here, about limited government and other principles being removed, the one back on the 16th. A lot of people asked, how did this happen? How did we miss it? How did we miss the big changes? I mean, I thought that's what I thought when I first read that article. I was like, gosh, how did that happen? Well, I mean, it was 2016. These guys knew that they had. I mean, these guys knew they don't believe in limited government. And by the way, if that's true, for Asa to say that, to respond to CFA, because everybody talks and everybody's trying to one-up the other person to say, well, they're wrong, limited government's not in there. Well, that means Asa's not for limited government. Asa's for government. You know, he always has been. Somebody that spent as much time in D.C. and then in the just the swamp apparatus, you think he's going to be a guy, you know, you think he's going to say government can't? Our government shouldn't. No. The government, the government can't. I mean, that's their job. I mean, that's what they perceive their job to be. All right, we got to take a break, folks. Happy Thanksgiving. We're going to be back to wrap things up here in just a moment. Don't go anywhere.
This is Mother Government. My people. The promised revenue gathering to fund my motherly goals, such as the Arkansas Works, Obamacare, private option has commenced. I have asked my representatives and senators to execute my will concerning new revenues, from the tires you use to drive on my roads, the candy and sodas you consume and purchase in my stores, and the digital products you download on my internet. Your sacrifices and tributes, which are owed, display a measure of obedience, but there are still collectible sacrifices I require from the people to increase the work and size of our great government of Arkansas. There are two matters left unresolved. 1. I require a general tribute for all purchases made on my internet. Not just digital products, but all products. My dear children, there are those who would thwart my motherly goals of progress. If you see them, please combat their misguided notions of freedom by using phrases like mom and pop, and tax cheat. 2. I still require more revenue sacrifices concerning your consumption of my gasoline. I require your undying loyalty on the subject. Subjects, in conclusion. More revenue is good. Static revenue is bad. This message was brought to you by your stewards, aristocrats serving Arkansas. Thank you, my children, in advance for your required and expected obedience that keeps society safe and prosperous. And always remember, from cradle to grave.
PHP Parody. If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group. Want to go back and listen to previous shows? Apple users can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. Don't have an Apple device? Head on over to paulharrell.com and click on Podcast. It's free and available 24/7 because the Liberty Machine never sleeps.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. We're wrapping up the show here. This is fascinating to me, though. There's a tweet here that has come to my attention. I wonder how long ago that was. Let me go to this guy's actual Twitter. This is an issue that we talk about often. There we go. Let me click on that. And, yeah, so this is fascinating to me. Let me throw this up on the screen. Get that out of there, and we'll bring this up. I've never heard of this guy. Zach on Twitter is responding to a tweet by Bart for Mayor, which is Mayor of Conway, Bart Castleberry, talking about the tax increase they passed last week. Yeah, like the week before Thanksgiving. You understand. Whether you're a family looking for a new place to call home or a small business owner looking for opportunity, tonight's results leave us better prepared to keep our promise to be the best city in Central Arkansas. A guy named Zach says my version of a best city wouldn't use special elections to suppress votes of its residents to sneak tax increases in. Very sad. Zach on Twitter, you're spot on, my friend. I just saw this. It came across on the AR Leg feed. Folks, happy Thanksgiving. Thank you guys so much for being with us these 3 days. We'll be back here on Monday. I'm going to have the best of the Paul Harrell program playing Thursday and Friday, but it won't be online unless you go to paulharrell.com and click the audio-only button. So if you want to listen to the best of this program Thursday and Friday, you got to go to paulharrell.com and click the green audio-only button. That'll be the only digital presence we have Thursday and Friday. Arkansas, happy Thanksgiving. Be safe.
CBS News Now. Mark Levin in minutes. This is FM News Talk 101.3 KBTM.